Welcome back to Mental Health Bites. I'm Dr. Judy Ho, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist. And in this podcast, we're going to break down a timely topic related to psychology, answer one of your burning questions, and leave you with a practical tip to improve your mental health every single day. Let's dive right in to the timely topic of the day. Today, we're talking about the little things that chip away at your mental wellness, even if you actually think they're helping. Let me explain. Here are some surprising little things that actually wreck your mental health instead of helping your mental health. Most people think that taking action always means progress, but that's actually not true. The truth is, some of the things that we do with the best of intentions can actually backfire and slowly erode our mental well being. For instance, constantly scrolling the news just to stay informed might seem responsible, but studies show that consuming a steady stream of negative media is directly linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and hopelessness. Even just a few minutes of doom scrolling a day can create a cumulative stress response that lingers long after you put your phone down. Another surprising habit is over helping others. You might think you're being selfless, you're being nice, but when you overextend yourself with your boundaries, it drains your emotional reserves and can leave you feeling resentful, exhausted, and certainly at that point, you're not helping anyone, least of all yourself. By the way, those are warning signs of burnout, and we have to take care of ourselves first before we can actually contribute to someone else. But I also get it. We live in a culture that often praises being endlessly available to others. And if you already struggle with saying no or people pleasing, then this might speak to you directly. And that happens often at the expense of your own needs. Toxic positivity is another example. Forcing yourself to stay positive, repeat positive mantras over and over again, no matter what is going on, might seem like a good way to cope with difficult situations, but research shows that suppressing negative emotions actually increases your stress hormones and worsens both your emotional and physical outcomes. In trying to deny your full range of feelings, you actually create a deeper emotional wound. Even behaviors like seeking endless reassurance, asking people if you're doing okay, asking for feedback, that's helpful. But if it's overdone, it may actually lead to more negative consequences. Sometimes we ask our friends if they're upset with you, or you're double checking your decision with trusted others. It might feel calming in the moment, but over time, this reinforces the belief that you can't trust yourself, which makes anxiety and self doubt worse, not better. And finally, multitasking. Many people wear this like a badge of honor. I'm a great multitasker. That may be one of the strengths that they talk about. But did you know that multitasking doesn't actually exist? Our brains only can focus on one thing at a time. So, what we think of as multitasking is actually going back and forth between two or more tasks very quickly. Although that sounds like you're being productive, it actually leads to diminishing returns. Over time, your brain starts to slow down because multitasking really taxes your cognitive load, and your cognitive resources are finite. You can't just keep tapping into it. So, the more that you multitask, the longer you multitask, it actually increases the risk of making mistakes, decreases your memory, and exhausts your brain's executive functioning. When you split your attention between too many things, you don't just hurt your productivity, you also chip away at your emotional regulation and ability to be present. Even celebrities will admit that they also fall prey to some of these little tips that are actually not benefiting their mental health. Adele shared that after her divorce, she threw herself into constant busyness, thinking that it would help her heal, but instead, actually made her feel even more anxious and disconnected from herself until she finally learned to set firmer personal boundaries and slow down. So here's the question: why do we do these things, especially when they're not actually that helpful? Part of the answer lies in how our brains evolved. We're wired to seek control and reduce uncertainty. Staying busy, checking the news, helping other people nonstop, all of these things keep your brain and your body busy. And in the moment, they can actually feel pretty good temporarily. Kind of feels like you're doing something productive to help yourself, doing something for the greater good. But over time, these behaviors, although giving you this illusion of control, they're actually not helping you to feel in control. Oftentimes, it actually makes you feel like you're spiraling out of control and you feel more overwhelmed as you take more things on. So, to summarize, even though they might seem like they're helpful in the moment and offer quick hits of relief, they actually do harm your mental health over time. Also, don't forget about social pressure. We are celebrated for being positive, for being busy, for being available. Those are some of the predominant cultural values. And we often internalize those messages without questioning whether they actually serve us. Recognizing these patterns is the first step towards change. And speaking of recognition, that brings us to today's Q&A segment. Today's question comes from an anonymous listener who writes, Dr. Judy, I always thought staying busy helped my anxiety, but lately I feel really drained and disconnected from others. How can I tell if I'm doing something good or actually making it worse? So I love this question because it's something so many people experience without knowing how to spot it. One quick tool I recommend is after any activity, check in with yourself and ask, do I feel restored or do I feel depleted? If an activity is restorative, it fills your emotional tank without overwhelming you. You feel calmer, lighter, maybe even a little energized. If an activity is depleting, it might offer a temporary distraction or sense of busyness, but afterward, you feel heavier, anxious, restless, or more fatigued. Another way to check is to ask whether the activity was rooted in engagement or avoidance. If you're doing something because you genuinely want to connect, reflect, create, or help, that's engagement. If you're doing it to numb out, distract yourself from personal problems, or avoid uncomfortable emotions, that's avoidance, and it tends to backfire over time. There's no shame if you realize that you've fallen into this avoidance trap. So many of us do. Self awareness is progress, not failure. It gives you the power to recalibrate and to choose differently next time. I hope that was helpful. Now let's move on to the actionable tip of the day. Today's super practical tip is called the mental health check in. Every evening, ask yourself these 3 questions, and you can respond either in your mind as you reflect or write it down in a journal. The first question is, what filled me up today? List 1 to 2 activities or moments. Second question is, what drained me today? Identify 1 to 2 moments or behaviors. Third question is, what is one small thing I'll do differently tomorrow to shift the balance? So here's an example. Something that filled me up. Deep conversation with a friend and my exercise routine. Something that drained me. 30 minutes lost on negative news sites and saying yes to an extra project at work even when I'm super busy. And what's one small thing I'll do differently tomorrow? Set a 15-minute limit for news consumption and definitely don't do it right before bed. And learn to say no to non-urgent extra work. So over time, this simple check-in will help you course correct. And it will actually help you to course correct in real time before those tiny stressors wreak havoc on your mental health. Thanks so much for tuning in to Mental Health Bites with me. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, there's plenty more where that came from. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and leave a comment below with your thoughts or any questions you have. Also, feel free to share this video with anyone who might also find it helpful. Stay tuned for more content, and as always, take care of your mental health.